Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormbless. Today we're diving into chapters 64 and 65 for The Way of Kings. As always, it's going to be full Stormlight Archive spoilers, so you haven't read the whole series. We'll see you later. Everyone else, welcome back. Christian, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I've had a week full of reading. I learned to read again, and I feel good. I feel inspired. How do you feel, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, we've been a little busy at work, but, you know, trying to get through it. And, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm about to take a little trip for the next few days. I think it's probably going to end up being more stressful than relaxing, unfortunately. But, you know, who knows? I'm going to try to keep a positive attitude going into it. But learning to read is a good thing. You know, Dalinar's trying his best to learn how to read in Roshar, and you're role-playing that in our real world, which is great.
Yeah, I'm slowly morphing into Dalinar post-war atrocities, Dalinar. You know, just
I was about to say, yeah, did you kill your wife or no?
No,
Okay.
It's just I'm just trying to learn to read. I'm trying to follow the codes, and I'm trying to remember the Way of Kings verbatim so I can quote it to random passers-by.
Trying to make a difference in the world.
I'm just going to be a guy on the street waving the Leatherbound around. The most important step a man can take.
Who's this crazy guy?
Yeah, Christian Kremling, mate.
Why does he keep talking about rocks?
Yeah, I'm just gonna stand next to Australian rocks and be like, you never know, guys. The Spren live within. But no, I've been on a massive manga kick this week. I don't know if there's any manga fans in our listenership. Please say hello if you are. But I've been reading 20th Century Boys, which has got me hooked more than like anything I've read for years, man. Like for years, I've not been like this glued to a series.
What about it is gluing you?
Well, 20th Century Boys is a mystery, and it's set in our world, so it's a break from fantasy, which is nice. But what is done is at the end of every chapter or so, you get like a very enticing revelation or like a what moment where you're like, okay, just one more, and you just keep going and keep going, and there's like the pacing does not let up. I've probably not read something this well that's kept me this like the breadcrumbs are perfectly distributed, let's just say that. And yeah, it's been a nice break from fantasy, a nice break from good old novels. I like seeing art, I like seeing pictures again, which is quite good. But I thought, oh man, I'm so inspired, I want to talk about this. Would I do a video? And I just think from this point onwards, I don't think I should do manga on the Lost in Discovery channel. I think if I was to do it, it would have to be a new venture. I'm inspired by your Dudes Talking manga move. I think it was a good move. And I'm quite liking that my channel is kind of Stormlight Cosmere focused. I just feel better about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of YouTube, I think, rewards you for being a little bit more focused. It seems that way. I mean, who actually really knows how any of it works? But I'm really pumped that you're like a 20th Century Boys. I only read the first volume. I loved it, but I love Monster. I mean, it's one of my favorite stories actually ever. And he always did a great job of kind of making you want to read the next one. He never really lets up in that idea. So the fact that 20th Century Boys continues, that's very, very exciting. I hope to finish that this year. That would be something I'd like to get to. Yeah,
I'd love to talk to you about it. And there's something about, I mean, a big reason why I like Brandon Sanderson and Stormlight is the mystery elements. I feel like the mystery elements are really prominent throughout the Cosmere. And it's usually tied to world building. And a little bit on, I suppose, yeah, as well on characters. You're like, why are they this way? And you get drip fed their backstory. Like Zeth is just a big old walk-in mystery. So if you like the mystery aspects of that, of Stormlight and the Cosmere, and you want a good like focused mystery, oh man, read Monster or 20th Century Boys. You'll be loving life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that there's a lot of stuff that I find anime-esque in Sanderson's works, and it's usually the stuff I really like from anime, and not so much the other stuff that I don't like from anime. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, Stormlight. Oh man, it's the most anime Western fantasy I've read, but I know there's quite a lot of modern fantasy I've heard is kind of anime vibes. Isn't Is it Rage of Dragons? Is it that book?
Rage of Dragons is a shonen.
Yeah.
Dude's on a revenge tale and has to train with demons to power up so he can go, topple the noble class. I had a blast with it. It definitely isn't a perfect book, but it scratched that itch for a shonen manga for sure.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot more crossover than maybe people would like to admit between our manga and fantasy worlds.
Yeah, definitely. I always tell people I'm a fan of stories, whether that story be through a television show, a movie, a comic book, a manga, or a book, or even art, like a picture. I'm a big fan of stories, and I may have preferred mediums, book being my favorite, but that does not mean that I will put my nose up to anything else. I'll always someone tells me this is a great story, I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, me too. I fully agree with that. I would love, we're very spoiled already with the Leatherbounds. We're very spoiled. But wouldn't you love an even more generous illustrated edition of Stormlight, pictures for every chapter? And even, can you imagine black and white manga panels for some of Stormlight? Oh my God, that would look insanely good.
Some of Shalon's sketches are black and, you know what I mean? Things that kind of, we actually get one today with the tower. And I was actually thinking about how much I love that little bit of charm in these books. I would definitely love to see a more illustrated edition. I think of the A Song of Ice and Fire illustrated editions, and I always feel like it actually doesn't even have to be those. Any illustrated edition, most of the time, I always feel like is still not enough. They throw in 5, 6, 7 maybe pictures. And I want more. I would like to see more illustrations if possible.
Yeah, I really hope there's a Stormlight art book coming at some point. And
I would love that.
Yeah, I feel like they will be or a lore book with art throughout. I feel like it will come. It'll be one of those things after book 5 where it's how do we, keep giving Stormlight out? Art book's great. They're producing so much more art for the Leatherbounds and also for the RPG. So I feel like it's a natural thing to do.
Yeah, a lot of the art from A Song of Ice and Fire did come from the RPG before the show. Came from the RPG game, and a lot of those actually went into trying to find people to cast for the show. If you go back and look at the pre-show illustrations, some of the RPG characters look like Maisie Williams for Arya.
Oh, wow,
it's very cool. Yeah,
that's very cool. I wonder if we'll ever get to that point where there's a unanimously agreed upon depiction, because there's no way. It's very hard for me to think of Jon Snow and not think of Kit Harington. It's near impossible unless I'm just in the book world, because he's quite younger. I can picture a different Jon Snow, but I wonder, Kaladin. Is he alive now? The guy who will play Kaladin, maybe.
I mean, we've also, we kind of talked about this last time about, took how many decades for a proper Dune adaptation. We don't talk about the David Lynch one, but or Foundation, right? It has just been made. Who's to say we're not going to be, 50 or 60 whenever that show finally comes out, the Stormlight Archive, on HBO or whatever it is. And that means that the person playing Kaladin may not be born yet.
Hey man, that's why you're primed to play Dalinar.
Okay. I wish
I could see Blackthorn Jimmy. I could see it.
Dave Bautista as Dalinar. I can get behind that. I like Dave.
I like him, but it's just so oversaturated. It's like weird alien guy. Call Bautista. Get his number now.
He's a good actor, though.
He is. I will give him that. You know what? I didn't watch it, but I loved his creepy vibes in the Shyamalan movie with his little glasses.
I haven't seen it yet, but apparently that's where Joe Abercrombie got Gunnar Broad from. He's like, it's Bautista. It's literally Bautista in glasses.
Yeah, I think he's an awesome guy, but it's the Henry Cavill phenomenon of cast him in everything. I'm
biased because I met Dave Bautista at my last WWE trial.
No way.
He sat in on my promo because you had to cut a 60-second promo in front of William Regal. And Bautista was like, you mind if I sit in on this? He didn't have to. And I said, yeah, whatever, it's cool. And I cut my promo, and they gave me feedback, and it was good. Everything was positive. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And I go walk out of the room. He's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And I'm thinking, oh, I did something bad. And he just like, tell me about you. And I just told him about my life. And he told me about his, and we related. And just an absolute fabulous person. He gave me time when he didn't need to. He said he'd put in a word for me. I didn't get signed, so I don't know how much his word went. He actually ended up leaving the company very shortly after, and I think that is a very unfortunate timing for me. I don't think the relationship was great at that point with WWE for him, but he was just such a kind guy and gave me time that I didn't deserve probably. So I'm biased. I like Bautista quite a bit.
Dude, that's amazing. I never knew that. That's so cool. That's going to be so great. Like when you guys are both on set for Stormlight to have that reconnection.
One can hope.
Yeah. Oh, who had that? Somebody had that. Yeah, I saw a video. Henry Cavill had that with, I think it was like Russell Crowe or something. Like they met when Henry Cavill was little fat Cavill, little fat teenage Cavill. And he's like, yeah, man, you'll make it. And they met again. And when he was like super buff, he's like, you did it. That's
cool.
Yeah. So you'll have that moment with Bautista. Who will he be? He could be, I reckon he could play a pretty mean past Shendy. Like he could be one of the fused. I could see that.
Okay. Dude, he would be a sick fused, dude.
He'd be the pursuer from Rhythm of War fighting Kaladin. That'd be so good. Yeah.
Well, just think about this. We are in the pre-show days, okay?
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, that really is something to think about because many times I'm like, try to think about a Song of Ice and Fire before the show, and you think about what people had for like ideas and theories and all these things. Like we're living in that golden age right now before the conversation gets a little bit more muddy, unfortunately, after something like that's released.
It's going to be such a mess, isn't it? It's going to be so divided. Everyone's angry. They're like, why is Henry cast as Vin? Like, we joked about it, but, now...
and now here he is.
Now here he is. Be careful what you wish for, guys. So, yeah, look, it's a special place we're in right now. And who knows what the adaptation will be.
I just took off my pants while we were recording.
I really tried to not make
Christian did not know what to do because I have sweatpants on over these shorts, and I started taking my pants off, and Christian immediately looked to the left, like he was like, "Oh no!"
I was like, "Do I make fun of him and make myself have to edit the podcast more, or do I try and hold it together?"
Bro, it's hot in my office. It was so funny because I could tell you were trying not to acknowledge it. It was so funny
because like there's a theme of you just like throwing random stuff at me to try and make me break doing these episodes. I'm like, has he really prepared a costume change? Are we at that level? Has he got his like Kaladin underpants on? And I'm just, you have to keep it together. But luckily,
if you don't tell anybody, I do have Game of Thrones underwear. Just don't tell anybody.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
And socks and a onesie.
I've got some Game of Thrones socks.
Based.
Yeah. The amount of, and that's what else is going to happen. You think Sando's got a lot of merch now? Wait, just you wait.
Yeah,
until like the adaptations. My goodness, it's going to be wild. And that's what happens. That's what happens. And
I like that stuff. I have action figures and stuff. I'm a big fan of that. I'm not much of. I've never wanted to own things. Like I'm not big on stuff. But now that I've settled down in my life, I'm getting older. I've allowed myself, and I won't lie. It's kind of fun buying merch of your favorite stuff.
Yeah. And I see like, we don't really have the Game of Thrones shop, but in the UK there are like the Harry Potter stores. I could see a Cosmere shop. I could be cool. Yeah, I could see it. I think that's what they're heading towards at the Sando base. You go in, it's Cosmere land. You got the shop.
There's a lot of consideration about commercializing it and creating jobs and stuff for other people. So it is by nature going to have more product, even than something like a Game of Thrones, because I don't think George was saying about commercialization back in 2010 when the show came out. I don't think he had any idea, of what it could end up being. Whereas I think Brandon is very in touch with the business side of this thing, and not just Stormlight, obviously, but like the Cosmere in general. So just because of that, I think the consideration being there that you'll just see so much more.
Yeah, I think it's just really fun. Go for it. People who love it will love it. I can buy my plushies, and
that's right.
Jamie can buy his $10,000 statue of whatever. because
Of
that's
Zeth.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm calling it now. You know that iconic image of Zeth holding like face palming, and he's got his blade to the side. That will be like a very
Statue.
expensive statue one day. Yeah,
Maybe
for sure.
Leatherworks will get to it. That'd be cool.
Oh, can you? Oh, give me Weatherworks working on the Cosmere.
All my action figures back there on my shelf.
Yeah.
Those are all Weatherworks.
I remember when I was in Hobbiton in New Zealand and I had all the Weatherworks statues around me, it was like
Incredible.
an absolute struggle to not make a poor financial decision. I'm like the Mist Wraith, not the Mist Wraith, that's Mistborn. The guys who stabbed not Kaladin, Frodo.
Oh my god.
The fanboy. You know that what are they? The undead dudes that stab Frodo.
The Nazgul?
Yeah. Oh my god, the Nazgul statue. I was like
The Ring Wraiths.
the ring wraiths. Yeah.
Yes.
See Sanderson, Mist Wraith, Ring Wraith. Come on, mate. Let's get a bit more unique.
Dude, the Nazgul is one of the coolest titles for any fantasy opponent ever. The Nazgul. Like, that is sick.
I know. That's the thing that Dune and Lord of the Rings have in common. They love a good like fantasy whisper session with like weird names.
Yeah. The Nazgul, they come.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff.
Turn this into an ASMR episode.
I know, because my parents were like, "How was Dune 2?" I'm like, "Oh, it was great." There's just a lot of fantasy, like that kind of stuff, like the chosen one is coming, that kind of stuff. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't know." And I was like, "Yeah, that's why I think Stormlight will be cool because they don't really do that." Which I like it, but I think it throws people way off. Like the general audience is like, "What?" Like the whole baby Jessica thing in Dune 2. I'm like. So many people would be like, what the heck is this?
I loved it though.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird in an interesting way. But some people will be like, this is too weird for me. You know, I just want
you gotta play that balance for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
so I guess Cosmere is safe.
Yeah, the Cosmere will be good. I think it's a little bit more grand, but I don't know. You say that, but then like, what about Spren? I mean, that is a very strange thing, is it not?
But Spren are they're strange in a like endearing way.
I think you might be biased.
All right, yeah, you're on this podcast with me, dude. You're in just as deep as I am. All right.
We should move to the update. The only update we really have is that Sanderson released a video about how the Leatherbounds are made. I haven't got to watch it yet. Christian, you haven't either?
I kind of skimmed through it. I have a passing interest in it, but like I'm just astounded how much money has been made from just the words of Radiance. Leatherbound, like I am flabbergasted because I know Stormlight's big and everyone's like, oh, you cover Stormlight, you're gonna get views. Like people are just like, it's it's getting to that point where everyone's like, oh, it's big. But seeing that, I'm like, God, man, it is so popular. So that was shocking. I think Sanderson has made a insane amount of new fans from the secret projects. I think he's made a considerable jump in popularity from that. And I don't think we're prepared for what's coming. But yeah, look, it's amazing what they're doing. I think more fantasy authors should do this. Authors in general give us special edition Leatherbounds. People are keen. If I could get Leatherbound first lore books, I would be just as excited. And I would, save up to buy them. Hope more people do it.
It would be awesome. I mean, I would certainly love that. Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point though about secret projects. I think it has led a lot of people to become fans, and it's a good new entry points are always a good thing, for something that's so big and complex. And clearly, these are providing that for some people. So, pretty great.
Yeah, the secret projects were, so exciting, great move, and I think is where most people will start now. Like Mistborn's like. From the mid 2000s, isn't that insane? So I think people will be like, I don't want to read that. I want to read like Yumi or Tress, and that's cool. You'll have fun, and you'll be like, and then someone like me, one of your friends like me, will be like, did you know it's a connected universe and there's a character in every book and blah 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 blah. And
bro,
just you wait. But yeah, dude. I just want to announce we have reached the Sanderlanche. We made it. We're finally here, dude. After slogging through, we've been carrying bridges, we've been reading books, studying, we've been having visions, and finally we broke through and we're at the Sanderlanche today. We've been doing this for a while, man, and we're going to get all the payoff now. I'm excited.
Yeah, dude, that is true. And I was actually looking. We have like 10 chapters left in this book,
Wow.
which has brought us to the question of whether or not we were going to do Warbreaker.
And we should talk about that. Yeah,
we ran a poll on Spotify, which we appreciate people actually answering it, which is great. Had almost 100 people there, and resounding yes. We said, should we do an episode on Warbreaker before Words of Radiance? 90% said yes, 10% said no. And then over on your YouTube channel, which you just hit 25,000 subscribers, congratulations, dude.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And we had 1,500 votes on YouTube,
yeah.
which is insane. And it was 92% yes. So I think we will be doing Warbreaker. And we haven't even talked about this off air, so I'm just bringing this on you now. I think Warbreaker is broken up into 3 parts. So we may do, I know we said 1 or maybe 2 episodes, but maybe 3 episodes is the sweet spot for Warbreaker.
Yeah, that sounds good. And people expressed concern of like how long would the podcast be on pause for?
3
which
weeks.
I think, I mean, either we pause it or we start reading it in the background now. I haven't talked to you what your schedule looks like, Jimmy, but I know your reading schedule is typically packed.
It is.
But we'll look. We often have 1 to 2 week breaks every now and then because of life stuff coming up. Let's just say we'll aim to keep the breaks to a minimum. If we can get on top of it, we will. If not, it's just because, life. But I think Warbreaker will be a great palate cleanser. I just get excited by doing it like a bit of a road trip, a bit of a twist on like what we do on Lost in Roshar typically. I think would be really fun to play around with.
Yeah, and I like Warbreaker. And I've always wanted to reread it because actually I've said it multiple times, it's actually my favorite magic in Roshar. Not
the
Roshar.
breaths?
Yeah, I really, really like it. And I also like the gods and how like their struggles are totally different. I don't know. I really, really liked Warbreaker. So there are times where I wonder if Warbreaker, I think when I reviewed it back on my channel, I said it was just okay. But as time has passed, I look back on it very fondly. So I'm excited to reread it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And this time, instead of reading it and then reading Stormlight, I have now read Stormlight and I'm going back to it. So I feel like I'll have more context for Vasher and those things.
Oh, yeah. And what's her name? I got Vivenna as well, who's also who shows up. So like that's going to be so good. I remember starting Warbreaker and like we had the scene of Vasher in the prison and he like makes a little straw man and awakens him to get the keys. I'm like, this is just so cool. I love that so much.
Had really good vibes, and then like the idea that there's this city. I don't know. I really like Warbreaker. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing 2 to 3 episodes. Maybe we could take a look. It's about a 600-page book. And I feel like if you asked me to read 200 pages in a week, I feel like that's reasonable. So that's 3 episodes. Like I feel like we can do it.
And for those people worried, like those no voters who want this just to be about Stormlight, a lot of the conversation about Warbreaker will be how it relates to Roshar. That's what we're all about. So
yeah, and I have plenty of feelings that the breaths is going to play a role, but I'm also a crackpot guy, so what do I know?
Hey man, they already played a role because good old like when we had Vasher and Kaladin in Rhythm of War, like have their little laundry battle. But I suppose we should spoiler tag this for people who don't know this connection, but I feel like I don't know. I'll put mild Warbreaker spoilers in this section just to be safe. But yeah, we'll read it. I'm excited. Thanks for voting. It was fun doing a poll on Spotify because often Spotify is just a number. It was cool to see some interaction on that platform.
Yeah,
there
definitely.
Too.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I guess we'll move into our death rattles for the week, which are chapter 64 and 65. Chapter 64 will be first, A Man of Extremes, and the death rattle is a very interesting one. And it was one of those ones that's so like crazy to me. Like it feels like either this is something that you're going to tell me that we've already seen in the first 4, or this is a scene that will be coming. And I guess you could say that about almost all the death rattles, but like, I don't know. I feel like this one feels obvious for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong, but They come from the pit. 2 dead men, a heart in their hands, and I know that I have seen true glory.
Gagasha. 1173. 13 seconds pre-death. A rickshaw puller. I'm just imagining a guy with like a yellow or orange fluorescent vest in Roshar, just like pulling a rickshaw.
Come on back here. Yep, a little more. You're almost there, sir. Yep, you're good. Dude, this is a vivid death rattle. They come from the pit.
I'm so glad you've forgotten this.
I immediately think of Kelsier.
Okay.
They came from the pit.
Yeah.
2 dead men. Kelsier, dead men, huh? Yeah. A heart in their hands, and I know that I have seen true glory. All right, what is it?
All right. I'm glad you've forgotten this, because this is my go-to hype up the chat death rattle. This is like my go-to proof that the death rattles are real. So you'll notice in Words of Radiance. Oh, let's see how good my memory is. I'm going to throw this out there from the top of my head. I've not checked. I think it's chapter 74, but it's definitely not that because it's a bit earlier. Anyway, there's a chapter called True Glory. And what happens in True Glory is when Dalinar sees Kaladin and Shallan, who are presumed dead, come out of the pit of the chasms with a gem heart from the Chasm Fiend. So the 2 dead men Dalinar seeing Kaladin and Shallan, a heart in their hands is the gem heart from the Chasm Fiend they killed. And I've seen True Glory. The chapter is called True Glory. So
wow.
That's a very cool.
I knew it. I knew it.
Truth.
I knew it had to be. It's too vivid.
Yeah.
Not be. Well, very cool.
Yeah, and it's like gives you for me it's like the perfect death rattle to show the constraints of it, that there's some things up for interpretation. 2 dead men, it's, you know, technically a man and a woman. So it lets you know that you can play around with this stuff a little.
Yeah,
which is fun.
All right, and we have chapter 65. The tower and the death rattle for that is, I see them. They are the rocks. They are the vengeful spirits. Eyes of red.
Kakakez. 1173. 8 seconds pre-death. A dark-eyed young woman of 15. Subject was reportedly mentally unstable since childhood.
Same. They just like me for real. Yeah. They are the rocks. They are the vengeful spirits. Eyes of red. Rocks is what I see here.
Rocks.
Bro,
you know what my favorite thing is? You know how we eventually get the epigraphs become like code, like excerpts from the diagram that Taravangian wrote, and then one of them is just like numbers. It's just all numbers in a row. I feel like that's where this podcast soon we'll be speaking in binary because we're in so deep. Just rocks and stones will be our 2 bits of vocabulary. Okay, for this, right? I think we're meant to be like Parshendi listeners stuff, but there's for me, right? The vengeful spirits. They are the rocks. They are the vengeful spirits. I feel like there is something in the Parshendi history where like the dead have lived on in the rocks. There is something like that going on.
It's 100%, dude. There's no way.
So the vengeful spirits, it's like them coming back. I suppose it's a nod to the fused. Or it's just like talking about, I always forget what these are called, but the giant rock things in Oathbreaker and the prelude. What are they called? Do you remember?
I do not remember.
Odium like awakens them and they've got eyes. Oh man, what are they called? Seth falls from the sky and like kills one. It's epic. They've got
Thunderclast.
Yeah, Thunderclasts. So maybe it's one of them. But I'm more inclined where it says they are the rocks, they are the vengeful spirits. I feel like it's a Parshendi spirit thing going on. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could just be the Thunderclass. Like, there's no doubt that could be it. But you know, I just think the rocks are very significant. I always talk about Dalinar's statue, or I'm sorry, Gavilar's statue, and how Gavilar is going to come back from it, and that's where the breasts thing comes in. I got a bunch of dumb stuff that I believe in, but everybody does, I think.
Here's my hot take.
All right.
Sanderson should drop all projects after Stormlight 5. He should drop Mistborn Era 3, and he should write Warbreaker 2, Nightblood.
I'm down. I want Warbreaker bad.
Me too, dude. I'm like, that should be number one. Number one. And I know he has his reasons and all this stuff, but as a fan, I want Warbreaker too. That's what I want.
I know Bookborn, our friend, also really wants Warbreaker too as well. So we're not alone in that.
Part of me is also quite excited to see what he does with Elantris, because I know it's, you know, it's got its faults, but I'm interested to see actually where he takes that as a trilogy. It might entice me more to jump in.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go.
You were reading Elantris, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. And then,
what happened to that? Huh?
I read 20th Century Boys, mate. And I saw the symbol with the eye and the hand, and I was like, I need to know what this is.
Are you a friend?
Our friend. Oh, it's the best. It's the best. Yeah, no, look, there was too many words. I needed pictures. You know, too complicated for me. So
picture books are kind of lit. So I guess we should jump into chapter 64, A Man of Extremes. We've already done the Death Rattle, but this is an interesting chapter because I believe this is the first time we've had Dalinar, Kaladin, and Adolin all in one chapter as POVs, which kind of shows you that things are coming together. It is a convergence of all the characters that we've met thus far, minus Shallan. And we start out with some flirtation then from the Dalinar POV, and Dalinar and Navani continue to see each other in secret. Dalinar tells Navani that he was interested in courting her, but he instead deferred to Gavilar when his brother also showed interest in her. That was the nature of the siblings' relationship. Navani thought that Dalinar hated her because he was cold towards her for the last 2 decades out of trying to conceal his true feelings. Navani says that Dalinar and his wife were a perfect match in temperament. Dalinar also reveals that he keeps a tight rein on himself to avoid reverting to his past tyrannical self. Their conversation is interrupted as alarms sound indicating that a chasm fiend is located at the Tower, with a capital T, Plateau, where Dalinar wants to run a dual assault with his dear best buddy Sadeas. And then we switch over to Kaladin. Bridge 4 lines up for the assault. They all wear Carapace armor. Carapace armor, whatever. Now we're not doing this again. He was wearing the skin of Parshendi's. How about that? Expertly crafted and ornamented by Leighton. Every man also has a shield crafted from Parshendi bones, some ornamented with smaller bones to create a rattling sound.
Oh my God.
Which would almost create a rhythm. The other bridgemen look on in astonishment and admiration and cheer Bridge 4 as they raise their bridge to shoulders. Adolin is the last piece of this chapter. Adolin was shocked to learn that he was wrong about his father, but he's glad that he was. Now he could trust him fully. Dalinar, Adolin, and Sadeas confer at the staging area and decide to bring 15,000 troops, as many as they can muster, to try to finish off the Parshendi army in one fell swoop once and for all.
All right. My initial comments on this chapter. Firstly, it's an atrocity that the summary forgot to mention earless jacks. Can I get some appreciation for earless jacks in the comments?
In the chat.
Who has returned? The weirdest. I'll never get over earless jacks. He's kind of like, you know how we've been discovering random characters?
Yeah.
You know, for me, earless jacks is just so funny.
That's your favorite one.
I don't know why. I just find it funny.
He's the cipher to the whole series.
He is. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. For me, right? No. This might expose me, but I don't remember why, or didn't realize why Adolin's having this revelation. Like, my dad's not crazy. What happened? Like, what happened? Is it because Navani?
Well, it's because Navani proved that they were real. Remember,
right,
she proved that his vision was actually valid, and he was speaking a dead language.
That's right.
And that's when everyone was like, "Holy cow!" And we hadn't seen Adolin since then.
Okay, that's why. Okay, because I thought he already had this moment, but all right. It's been like, you got to remember, guys, we read these quite far apart. Sometimes you forget.
I forget a lot of stuff.
Yeah. For me, what was also kind of poignant was like the size of the armies for the first time kind of hit me when they're like, I'm just going to get about 10,000. I'm like, oh, this is way bigger than I'm imagining it. Were you imagining it smaller?
I struggle. I always imagine it smaller. I struggle with that. In fact, actually, humans in general struggle with numbers and scale. It's actually something that we like. That's why it's really hard to comprehend how small we are in the universe. because it's almost impossible to think about that scale, which does kind of make sense. But I also do this with battles. I'm always way zoomed in. You know, I'm thinking it's like 10 people skirmishing, when in true events, it's actually 15,000 people, which is, I mean, that's a stadium, you know, enclosed NBA game, you know, 20,000 people.
Do you think they'll do what Game of Thrones did in season 1, where it's like Dalinar's running into battle, but he gets knocked on the head with something, and he wakes up?
No, but what a great way of getting around the budget and staying true to the character of Tyrion. But no, because Game of Thrones was so successful, TV shows now, but their budgets are insane. The reason why the battle was cut in season 1 of Game of Thrones is because of the budget.
Yeah.
So there will be no budget concerns, I don't think, whenever Stormlight gets adapted.
Man, when you first read this, I'm like, yes, rally the troops. I'm hyped for the battle. For me, this chapter was all about the Dalinar and Navani conversation and hearing about good old and Dalinar's relationship there. Navani a bit savage, you know, like she was kind of.
She wasn't very clever, now was she? Kind of a dum-dum, if you will.
She's no offense. So you're with a dumb blonde, but you know she was sweet. You know, she liked watching butterflies. But now you're with me, all right? So
gave ready. Him the Robert Baratheon. Your mother was a. Did you know that?
Oh, Navani, played by Bobby B's actor, who I'm forgetting the actor.
If you need to cut that out, it's at 36 minutes.
I don't know. I actually don't know what to do with that one. We'll see.
I think it's a terrific thing to leave.
I just feel like I'll timestamp it. Jimmy being Jimmy.
You could also just bleep me if you need to.
You've stumped me with that one. You've stumped me with that one. But alas, we continue. I want to see where we end up with our casting by the end, because like so far, the guy who plays Bobby B is playing Navani. Everyone else is either Sanderson or Henry Cavill.
Mark Addy is.
Yeah, Mark Addy. Yeah, Mark Addy. Can you imagine Mark Addy with Dalinar?
Look at my Fabrial.
Why didn't you talk to me sooner? Oh, all right.
All right, I do got some good stuff here, though.
All right, give me something, Jimmy.
Actually matters.
Okay.
I'm going to read this, and I just want to hear your initial thoughts, okay?
Okay.
It's in the second paragraph. Ellikar's gardeners had begun to cultivate the plant life here. To the right, a twisting length of yellow shell bark rose to waist height like a railing. The stone-like plant was overgrown by small bunches of jaspers with pearly shells slowly opening and closing as they breathed, or breathed, if you will. They looked like tiny mouths silently speaking in rhythm with one another.
Okay. I highlighted that line too, the last bit.
The whole paragraph.
Oh, man.
It's us.
We see the word rock and rhythm together, and we're not letting it slip past us here.
Breathe. I mean, as breath. They breathe,
just keep saying breath. They
cultivate?
Breath, Christian. They breath.
Cultivate.
Hey, I see. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And,
Stone-like. After that, remember the death rattle. The death rattles we're seeing here. The next death rattle says they are the rocks. And then you got stone-like plants over here that have been cultivated.
And they're speaking in rhythms, mate, to one another. Look,
the rhythms have not been solved. In my opinion, they have not been solved.
Agreed.
Okay?
Fully agreed. You know what? That would be a good twist, because we always talk about Roshar's ecology. Like, it's so unique. Wow, amazing. But besides just swaying in the wind and, like, you know, running away from people, wouldn't you want to do a bit more with that? Wouldn't you want to do a big twist that they can all talk and interact and there's memories and all this stuff? Yeah. Maybe this is what's going on.
I'm just thinking.
I think it's important.
A whole lot more life on this planet than just what we're seeing. Okay, we got kremlings, we got plants that seem like they have mouths that are breathing. Come on,
I think
open your eyes, people.
Maybe the Kremlings talk through the hive mind. Maybe the plants have got their own system.
They're using the rhythms as well. The rhythms are not exclusive to the Parshendi, dude.
I agree with that sentiment, actually. I think that is true.
Yes, of course it's true. Of course I'm correct.
This is taking me back to like the early episodes where you're like, vines, dude. There's
vines. What's up with the vines, bro? I'm just saying, if you look into it, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Nice one, man. I like it. God, that would just... Let's look out for the sus plants. It's like we're adding it to the pile with your, like, the rock bud that was lapping up the blood. You're like, dude.
Hey, listen, whenever it all comes out in the wash, you guys are all going to be like, wow, we doubted him. Okay?
Yeah. We doubted Jimmy Storm. You're just like Dalinar having visions, and I'm translating it to the ancient language.
That's right.
All right. Did you have anything else in this chapter? We've rallied the troops. Off we go.
I'm ready to go really. To the tower. There's a great moment from Kaladin. I think it's this chapter. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the next one. But he said they're going to realize what we are. Like, what are we? We're their champions. And that's whenever they're getting the applause. I mean, it's a humongous shift in perspective and opinion of the Bridgemen. You know, I mean, and then this is obviously when we talk about anime, this is him delivering the anime protagonist line. Right, we're their champions.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is the anime. But as the kids say these days, it's pretty hype. It's
also it's hype, and it's building this thing that like things are about to start going very well for us, and that some of the things that we thought weren't true are true, which is the Dalinar stuff with Adolin, and then in the very following chapter, Tower, we get the rug pulled out from underneath us by Sadeas. So it's pretty rough.
Yeah, it is pretty rough. Speaking, like, just the tower in general, like, we know the shattered planes were no accident. I wonder if the tower, like, what part of the story the tower has to play there.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, it's obviously, I mean, it's obviously an anomaly, but is it just like, did that just happen by accident, or did it used to be something? You know, I'm curious.
I am too. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, like, nothing about Roshar is not sus. Like, everything, the way the planes are shattered, and the reason why the Shin are where they, everything is sus.
Yeah, it's fantastic world building. It's where he shines.
There's so much mystery, dude.
Yeah. You ready to do it? Ready to go to battle?
We're going to battle in Chapter 65, The Tower, starring Dalinar, played by Dave Bautista, and Kaladin, played by Timothy Chalamet. Your plot summary is as follows. We start off in the big old daddy Dalinar POV, and it's Dalinar and Sadeas watch as the Parshendi army of roughly 10,000, dude. Wow. They line up. Okay, and while they still try to remove the gem heart, Sadeas suggests they attack together. But Dalinar knows that many of the Bridgemen will be killed. He holds to the code and won't order that what he wouldn't do himself, what he himself would not do. Dalinar will follow Sadeas' army once a bridgehead is cleared, which is where we jump to the Bridgeman Kaladin. You might be familiar with him and such acts as, well, bridge running. Kaladin leads 4 other decoys in drawing Parshendi arrows away from the bridge crews, though he draws the most missiles by far, until all the surviving bridges are in place and the army rushes across. Kaladin then goes to help Teft and Scar, who were hit by arrows, and starts operating on Teft as there are enough soldiers in the air to protect them. Dalinar gets the final piece of this chapter, and this is where the treachery begins. Dalinar orders a crew to set up bridge for his army to cross, and he leads his men into battle along with Adolin. Some Parshendi target him with large rocks, and he goes after them and takes care of them easily. After some time in the battle, Dalinar feels the thrill with a capital T, but loses it as he faces down a youthful Parshendi. He starts having doubts about fighting and thinks about the codes and Gavilar's murder in visions, trying to decide what is right course of action. Adolin interrupts his reverie to point out that another group of Parshendi have arrived. Dalinar wonders why Sadeas' scouts didn't give him the warning. He climbs on top of the rock formation to see that, in fact, Sadeas with his army and bridge crews have fled from the Tower Plateau, leaving his own army surrounded and cut off from retreat. Treachery at its height, my friend. Absolute disgusting, deplorable behavior from one High Prince Sadeas. I hope someone stabs him.
As my father said, reading The Way of Kings, Sadias. Sadias. Great call, Dad.
Yeah, he got that one right.
Yeah. Well, hey, dude, I saw in the words of Ratings Leatherbound, there is going to be an amazing art piece of that very stabbing. It looks incredible.
Woo! Murder.
Yeah. Woo. We love it. We love to see it. Man, I love Dalinar fight, like battle scenes. They're just so cool. They're so gripping. And like I said, I'd keep an eye on when he breaks out of the thrill and what the reasoning is. This felt like a very like normal, sobering battle moment, seeing a young man fighting and questioning everything. So is that all it takes to, cut you off from an unmade? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think he's clearly being influenced by the Stormfather, so he's a different person even than he was a year or 2, 3 ago, whenever this all started, right? So it's interesting to see this, and also the idea that when you go into war, like these are things that can't cross your mind if you're going to be successful.
Yeah,
right? You really do have to put away a lot of that empathy and human side of you and to do the job, which is, it's pretty tough because he's not just wondering about the youthful Parshendi, but he's also wondering if unite them includes the Parshendi, and he's also considering the Bridgemen. Yeah, he's considering the Bridgemen as well. Yeah, and this is something that obviously the leaders have not considered ever. So it's a big switch, and it definitely doesn't make him popular with the other high princes.
Makes him popular with the reader though, because God, he's just so likable in those moments. Like, oh, he sees the big picture finally. Yeah. And you can just really feel him. Like he's just trying so hard to do the right thing. And it's very admirable. But that moment where he's like, oh, did that include the Parshendi? I'm like, Dalinar, you're in battle. Like, leave the lore drops for later.
He could not help himself.
No, he couldn't. A few interesting things, right? I was well, firstly, because you mentioned the Stormfather, I will say there's like a cheeky Adolin line last chapter, I think, when he was like, my dad's not crazy. Thank the Stormfather for that one. And I'm like,
that is cheeky.
Yeah. I was wondering about, we've gathered fame across the realm for the gestures of Roshar, thanks to our podcast. A fellow fan has asked Sando to show a gesture on the Dragonsteel stage. And now I see the Parshendi one. They put their hand to their ear and they point at Kaladin. I didn't know what that meant. And I don't know if we ever get that again. What was that about?
I don't know.
Any theories?
Maybe his rhythm's off, and that's why they know he's using Stormlight?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Maybe that's like a symbol for like Knights Radiant or something something. But at the same time, like Sanderson has thrown in some things here that never get really mentioned again. Like there's a line, it says that their whispered songs rose like the curses of the spirits of Soul's March. And Soul's March was capitalized, and I looked it up, and it's like, the Copper Mine was just like, it's probably a tradition on Roshar. It's like never touched on again. So there are some things that just don't get touched on. So that's
very normal in every fantasy series as well. I mean, but hey, who's to say that it won't?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, maybe it will. But man, we do get echoes of Oathbringer here in Dalinar's mind. Like these, like he's like, this is right. This is who I am. I'm the Blackthorn. I took over this country with my brother. You know, disturbing but thrilling.
But kind of based, honestly.
I mean, did he do anything wrong?
That's the question.
That's what we're asking. I'm just trying to. I'm just scrolling through my notes here.
Paladin danced with the wind. I like that line.
There's a lot of cool lines. There was an anime description line, but I still liked it.
Let's hear it.
Where Kaladin. Perhaps attacking this way served to protect Dalinar's pristine image. He wouldn't make Bridgeman die, not directly at least, never mind that he stood on the backs of the men who had fallen to get Sadeas across. Their corpses were his true bridge. I'm like, I mean, it's a little, but I still like it. I like the sentiment of it.
It's a little dramatic, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Add it to the pile. But yeah, look, it's interesting reading this chapter without the adrenaline pumping of like, what is gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still thrilling. I will give it that. I love when Sanderson jumps through POVs very quickly in his climaxes. It's like the classic Sanderlanche technique. It doesn't get old for me personally. And that like rug pull old crap moment of like we're surrounded and Sadius left is just fantastically done. And I'm just like, we're about to get the moment where it's just Bridge 4 running back, and it's just one of the best things ever. That moment. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's really good build up to it. There's a lot of stress in the situation, and I will say this, even on the reread, it was a little hard to stop there at 65.
It was hard to stop. I wanted to. Yeah. I cannot wait to read these next chapters. I haven't read them fully again for years, right? I cannot wait to experience this again, and I'm holding off.
Codes, words, Eshonai. I'm just reading the chapter titles. Justice, The Silence Above, Sea of Glass, Recorded in Blood, Veristatilian. I don't know how you can say that. Trust. It's just interesting. Like I feel like the chapter titles have gotten a little bit more brief as we go into the climax, which does give it a more immediate feel, which is kind of interesting.
The rest of this book it's so hard not to swear. It's swear word crazy. It's insanely incredible. Like the amount of character moments and like lore moments that all are about to hit us right in the face.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the amount of restraint to hold it all to these last 10 chapters is kind of astounding. And you start to get what Sanderson's going for, because I could see someone not getting into this book until right now. I could see someone just plodding along.
I know my friend who'd recently read them for the first time. I mean, he was like very much not enjoying Way of Kings until the climax.
Yeah. But what's great though is that like all of that excitement and goodness, I don't know, I'm running out of adjectives. All of that carries through the rest of Words of Radiance. You don't get a reset. I feel like this energy is maintained through the next book. And the Way of Kings is unique in that very methodical pacing at the beginning.
Yeah, and then Oathbringer really shakes it up a bit. And I'm that's the book I'm most excited to reread, because like I want to see, because when I finished it was my favorite, and then I feel like I got gaslit into believing that it wasn't as good as I thought it was, and that Words of Radiance is a better book. But I have a very strong feeling that I'm going to still love Oathbringer a lot. And there was a lot of stuff in Oathbringer I was confused by at the end. And doing something like this podcast, and being able to bounce things off you, I'm going to understand more of it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, like Words of Radiance, I think I enjoy more overall, but the ending of Oathbringer is still untouched for me as maybe like one of the most exciting things I've ever read. And just the battle, like the things that the characters are doing in that battle are just astounding.
Yeah, it's crazy, and like so many things are revealed.
Yeah, dude, like the chase when Lift has that giant gemstone and like Seth is with her with Nightblood, like and Yasna's over there spawning stairs and cutting people down, and
Thunderclass,
Thunderclass, like Dalinar's saying his words, "You won't take my pain." All this crazy stuff is happening, and like Kaladin versus Amaram, like all this in like a few hundred pages. I was losing my mind reading that, and then like the Way of Kings is like, oh yeah, Kaladin jumps, like he does the long jump record in Eleth.
Yes, the long jump record.
But somehow the emotional impact of this climax, these next chapters with Kaladin, I don't think have been topped for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get into the Sanderlanche. that is our 2 chapters for the day. We do have a Spanreed. This one's not really a theory as much as it's someone who's reaching out and trying to connect. And we thought this was a really cool email, and it was sent way back, and we're still working through really old Spanreed. So yeah, forgive us. And this one is from Kriti. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. If I'm not, I do apologize. It's Kriti. And she wrote in and said, "Hey, Christian Kremley and Jimmy Stormblessed. Every week, I think I want to Spanreed you guys, and I procrastinate. I keep thinking I'll send theories, and then I forget because I don't write them down. And well, life happens, and it becomes another week. So today, I thought, forget the theories, and let me just instead say hello. The things you guys said in the podcast this week truly reverberated with how I feel and read when I read and view Stormlight. And I wish I knew what episode that was because this is so long ago. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and
something really profound that
way. I'm full of profound things. Yeah. I'm going to continue here. It says, I honestly enjoy reading barely anything in a chapter and then going on Reddit, YouTube, Coppermine, and spending hours following one link to another and not mind spoilers that follow at all. But this is actually what got me super interested in Cosmere to start with. The lore and the theories are just so fun to follow up on. And then thinking, man, why did I not think of that? It makes so much sense. I just finished my reread of Stormlight when you guys started the podcast, and now I'm doing yet another reread, or rather audiobook listen this time around as I follow the podcast. I've been listening since the very first episode, and it has been super fun. I don't have any friends who are fans of the Cosmere, not for lack of trying to get them to read it, and listening to the banter between you two on the podcast really helps me enjoy this amazing series even more. I moved to a new country late last year, which is why I did my reread of Stormlight, and Kaladin's story specifically really connects with me. I am a helicopter pilot, mentioning it because most helicopter pilots are too cool to enjoy a nice fantasy nerd out time, who also somehow lives in places where the local bookstores don't even sell Brandon Sanderson books, sadly. This is why following along the podcast makes it kind of fun, like I'm listening to friends passionately discussing the series, because there really is so much one can get into. I usually listen to the chapters and show while driving, and it makes for a fun time to beat the traffic. I was surprised how you guys didn't start this episode with how each of you guys are doing, so I thought I'd send this email hello to ask how are you. Anyways, I should stop my rambling for now, and so I'm not really contributing to real information, but just say thanks for the podcast. I look forward to it every week and was kind of sad the one week where it didn't come out, and I kept checking every day, wondering what happened to it, or if my Spotify was glitching, to then finally go to Christian's YouTube channel to see a comment that it was a week off. I cannot wait to continue this journey with you guys for the coming years. Keep your safe hands covered. A fan, Creedy. P.S. If you guys ever have any guests on your show, more importantly, randomly just talking about Stormlight, let me know.
Yeah, sweet.
Thank you so much for this. We wanted to read this because this is the kind of stuff that is really encouraging to us. It makes us, one, obviously feel very nice, but it also gets us excited to realize that we're adding some sort of value for people who maybe don't have groups of people to chat with us about. You know, Christian's convinced his entire family, I think, to read Stormlight at this point. And I run a book channel where there's endless amounts of people who have read Brandon Sanderson, but there are, at this point, thousands, tens of thousands of listeners to the show who don't have people. So we're glad that we can provide that for you. And we hope that our random ramblings and jokes and stuff, isn't too unbearable as we wade through this massive epic. But we wanted to keep this chill. We're not experts, but we just wanted to have some fun and cover a series that we think is really, really interesting and compelling and worth the time reading. So the fact that we are that for you who wrote in and then also other people is really cool.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. And that's why we do it, because it's just nice to build a community, and it's hard to actually meet people and talk about this stuff. So that's what we want it to be. Your two annoying friends who won't shut up about series A or B. So yeah. That's great. I love hearing where people listen to our thing, because it makes it real suddenly, because I can see the numbers and it's like an abstract thing, but if like I listen to this walking my dog, I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and those are times I know for me, when I listen to certain podcasts, or even when I've listened to audiobooks, I remember the things I was doing while I listened to those things, and it becomes like a special moment that those things are kind of like related in my head. So, it's always cool. I make a lot of content and a lot of people listen to me, which is very strange for me. But this is the kind of stuff that makes it encouraging rather than just freaking me out. You know, I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God.
yeah. Yeah, the imposter syndrome can kick in for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it makes you want to quit and never do this again. But emails like Spanreeds like that are extremely sweet and cool to hear. Thank you for sending that in. And it was, you know, maybe we do theorize too much. Maybe we just need to. No, we'll never give up.
No, never.
We'll never stop.
We are who we are, for better or for worse.
So yeah, wow, we're right there, dude. Codes and words. Next week, I expect your Sill impression to be sharp and ready to go.
You're damn right.
But just please don't be busting out but I don't understand, Callum.
that was my finest moment in this podcast.
Honestly, it's your best moment. I thought about making YouTube shorts about like some of our moments, and that's probably the one. That's probably the one.
I want you to do it just selfishly.
Yeah, I had a brief like at the start of my theories videos. I did like a little animation of one of our sections. I'm like, this could be good, but we're just so spoilery, and YouTube Shorts just, you know, there's no warning. So
yeah, it's just, did you know Kaladin is actually a windrunner? Like, it just immediately spoils the first book. Like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, that's why this series is very hard to recommend. I will say that.
Did you know Dalinar killed his wife? Burned her up like a hot dog.
I think I'll just do the one of Mark Addy playing Navani.
Now that I can get behind.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. But anyway, guys, thank you as always for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next time as we dive into chapter 66 and 67.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. It helps us out a ton. And if you have any questions or theories, Spanreed us at lostandroshar@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And please, folks, for the love of the Stormfather, remember, please, to keep that safe hand covered.